Our company is about 6 years old. We were actually founded by the original creators of the Apache Spark project at the UC Berkeley AMP Lab. And as part of this, we still have a very strong commitment to the open source community. We still contribute about 75% of the code that goes into the open source Apache Spark project. And we've recently released large projects such as the Delta Lake storage substrate and the ML flow system for reproducibly tracking machine learning jobs as open source packages. Beyond this, we've trained more than 100,000 Spark users, and we've been fortunate to have more than 2,000 companies worldwide use the Databricks Unified Analytics platform. What you may be asking now is, how does a company like Databricks that is working on a large-scale open-source technology like Spark, which is designed for processing large amounts of data on top of a large compute cluster, get into an ecosystem like healthcare? As I'm sure all of you all are aware, there are many, many use cases in healthcare where we're seeing larger and larger data sets come together. For instance, we do a lot of work in the pharmaceutical space. We hear the work that we're doing with Regeneron today, but our work in the pharmaceutical space spans work on large-scale statistical genetics, imaging assays, real-world evidence. When we go ahead and we look in other areas, we work with population sequencing projects. We work with payers that are going ahead and taking large claim data sets and analyzing them to look at trends, to segment the population. We wind up having a very broad presence across this ecosystem. When we go ahead and we look at health and life sciences, we then try to specialize this out and develop systems that allow customers to more rapidly get to work on these large-scale data sets. For instance, if we look in genomics, a lot of researchers are transitioning from a world in which we may have been working on 10,000 patients who were genotyped on an array to now an ecosystem where that 10,000 patient study is done with whole genome sequencing, or instead of having genotypes from 10,000 samples, I now have 500,000 samples like in the UK Biobank. This requires a pretty dramatic shift in how we go ahead and think about our analyses and the tooling that we use to go ahead and process these terabytes and terabytes of data. As we start to focus in genomics, genomics will be our singular focus today, although we do a lot of work in these other areas. We've actually built out a product effort that makes it a lot simpler for researchers to use these best-of-breed tools optimized for cloud computing on the platform. The big issues that we're seeing here, again, that people are massively investing in genomic data across the whole ecosystem. We can see, the UK Biobank project, which has been, really been adopted very widely. People are using it in drug discovery. They're using it to do predictive and preventative medicine. You look at the Genomics England project, which is going ahead and doing large-scale whole genome sequencing. They've already hit more than 100,000 individuals. This data is feeding back into both the research and the diagnostic space as well. What ultimately a lot of people are trying to do is to combine both various different data modalities along with various different data analysis approaches to go ahead and accelerate how their company works. If we look in the pharmaceutical space, there's a lot of interest in accelerating the drug discovery project. We'll hear extensively today about how Regeneron is using statistical genetics to improve the evidence for candidate targets that they advance, but we also have customers that are working on things like combining gene expression profiling plus imaging data from high-throughput screening assays so they can better isolate a biological signal. If we go ahead and we look elsewhere in the health ecosystem, you could look at a customer like Sanford Health that is going ahead and doing population-scale genomic profiling, tying that back to phenotype data, and using that to go ahead and generate predictive models for what diseases someone is going to come down with so that they can go ahead and get them into a care stream in advance. They can get into a better preventative care stream and prevent that person from coming down with a disease. And obviously, many folks are looking at how we can actually use genomic data to guide precision treatment and improve patient outcomes once someone comes down with a disease. However, the big problem that a lot of our customers face is that just because they invest in these data modalities, just because they invest in these techniques, does not guarantee success. If we look in the healthcare and life sciences space, about 75% of companies in healthcare plan to use AI to go ahead and improve the outcomes either in their pharmaceutical company, in their healthcare system, and 63% of them are investing today. But when we go ahead and we talk to the CIOs that we work with, the reality of the situation is that only 1 in every 3 of these projects are successful, and even the ones that are successful take a very long time to go from development into production. We're often looking at half a year of development before that investment that they've made is paying off, if it pays off at all. So as we look towards to the west of this talk, we'll hear Lucas talk about how they've been working with large-scale data at Regeneron, how they've been using Spark to go ahead and power that, and really what I'd like to inspire you to think about is how Spark is a really powerful technology for this large-scale analysis, but it's complex to set up and it's complex to run. As we go through this talk and as we go through our discussion towards the end, we'll look at how a pipeline like this, that is taking your genetic data, running through the data on the cloud, running large workflows using Spark, and then presenting this data back to scientists, can actually be made a lot more easy and a lot more performant by using the Databricks platform. That said, I'd like to go ahead and transition over to Dr. Lucas Habiger. Thank you all very much for your time and look forward to chatting with you all today.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to share our story at Regeneron and how we're using Apache Spark to Databricks to analyze one of the world's largest human genetics data sets. So let me start with the fact that drug discovery is an extremely challenging problem. In fact, more than 95% of all the experimental medicines that are currently in the pipeline are expected to fail. One of the key reasons for this is that for many genes in the genome, we still don't know what their function is and how they're related to disease. However, there's a bright spot in all of this. We can leverage human genetic data to significantly increase the likelihood of success. And at Regeneron, we strongly believe in using human genetic data and incorporate that in the drug discovery process.